I'm so excited to talk to you. You are such an influential person. People just adore you. And you have
Oh,
a new book out.
yes.
That
Thanks, Leah. That's
sounds fun. So tell
I
me about
know.
it. Why did you write this book?
It is so, when I wrote That Sounds Fun that came out in February, I was writing to adults talking about fun. And we had already planned to write a kid's book. And I knew I wanted to write about fun, but what at the end of every podcast episode, I ask people, because the show is called That Sounds Fun, tell me what sounds fun to you. So then it just felt really natural to release That Sounds Fun and What Sounds Fun to You back to back, because it's the question we ask all the time. And so really with kids, I used to teach elementary school and I'm surrounded by kids in my real life. And so when I'm listening to them, they're always talking about fun. It's adults who've forgotten how to do it. And so I just wanted to write a book that reminded kids of all the ways they could have fun in the life that they already have. I mean, if we learned anything in the pandemic, it's that big, expensive trips are not the only way we get to have fun anymore, right? Everybody learned how to have fun in the house that they live in and in the life they already have with the budget that is much smaller than those big trip budgets. So I wanted to remind kids of that, and the adults who are reading it with them, the parents, the aunts and uncles, the friends, the teachers, all the people, the librarians who pick up this book and read it with kids. I wanted them to remember what sounded fun to them too.
Yeah. I love that. As a mom of a 1 and 3 year old myself, I'm always looking for things to do with my kids. So just give us a little sneak peek of what we can expect in the book. What are some of these practical things you're telling us to do?
Oh yeah, well, on every spread, what we did is we just kind of drew. The illustrator Jenny Poe's ingenious. She's incredible. And so I would give her words about a farmer's market. And I'd say, here's my experience with I call them my mini BFFs. When my best friends had kids, now I have mini BFFs. So when my mini BFFs and I go to the farmer's market, what do we do? And what do we see other kids doing? And so that's every page is a spread like that, kind of saying like, okay, in a farmer's market, what's fun? And you see a bunch of kids doing a bunch of different things in the swimming pool, at the beach, in your classroom, in your church, in your home. I mean, we just went to as many different locations as we could in our minds. And the best part is, Leah, you're going to love this. So the majority of the kids that are illustrated in the book are kids that are in my real life.
I love
And so
that.
we gave Jenny all their pictures and she drew them into the book. So you're really seeing kids that I know do the thing that sounds fun to them. On the page where Sammy has on a blue hat and he's kicking the soccer ball, Sammy wears a blue hat and kicks the soccer ball. Like, it really is kids that I know. And so that's what made this one so fun, is it doesn't just feel like it's my book, even though I wrote all the words and Jenny did the illustrations. It feels like it's my community's book, that they can see each other and see themselves in it. And I think that's really important for kids. You know this with yours, but if a kid can see themselves in a book, they will believe the book and
Yes.
they'll believe what they see. And so we worked incredibly hard to make sure any kind of kid could see a version of themselves in the book, no matter your skin color, your hair color, what you like to wear, what you like to play. We have kids in a wheelchair. We have kids with hearing aids. We have kids with glasses. Like, we wanted every kid to see someone who looked like them in the book, because that's the story they'll believe is the one they see themselves in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the Bible is so full of instruction, how we're to even approach the throne of God as a child, right? We're supposed to have this childlike wonder. So, talk about how this ties into the book, how we are supposed to, Jesus is so clear, we're supposed to learn from these little ones.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reality, is what kids remind us and what we remember when we think of fun is simplicity.
Yeah.
And how easy things actually are. Now, of course, life is not easy. In fact, Jesus said, this is going to be hard, but the Holy Spirit will be with you and I'll leave you my peace. And so it is hard as a grown up. But a couple of months ago, I was at an event and this kid just comes running at me, Leah. I mean, I can see him all the way down the hallway. There's all these adults lined up, like doing the appropriate thing to meet someone they want to meet. And here comes this little 4-year-old just barreling at me, who knows me because we do the mini BFF book club on Monday nights on Instagram, where I read a picture book to kids. And so I say their names, and the parent will type in Joshua is here. And I'll say, oh, Joshua, I'm so glad you're here, And so this kid knew me and loved me through Instagram. And so he's running at me and hugging. And it just reminds me, like, man, when you love somebody, just run and hug them, like run toward the people that you love, right? And so there's all sorts of things like that that just remind me of how I want to be with God, how I want to be with the people that are in my lives. Kids have a lot to teach us.
What encouragement do you have for parents who want to raise their children to know and fear and love the Lord, but it feels like we don't have a lot of support?
Yeah. I mean, I think everything we have is a tool, right? So social media is a tool, just like a hammer is a tool, and how you use it determines whether it is for your good or for bad. And
Yeah.
so that would be my encouragement is like, don't bring a tool in your house that you can't figure out how to teach other people to use well, right? There's a lot of things we don't leave axes sitting on our dining room table when there's kids in the house, because kids don't know how to use that tool in a way that will better the world. Whereas a grown-up knows it can chop down a tree and give us firewood and all those things. So I would just say, don't put a tool in the middle of your family that everyone can't learn how to use really well, or until they can learn how to use it really well, don't bring it into the middle. But there are things like me reading on Instagram that is a 20-minute thing that allows parents to rest for a second, right in the witching hour, right? We do it at 6 p.m. on Mondays. So right in the witching hour. But I also think, there's just so much you and I have the benefit of that. If I have a question about anything, I can Google it. Right. My grandparents couldn't do that. And so our kids are lucky that they can know whatever they want to know. And in fact, today I couldn't think of a Bible verse. Have you ever, I'm sure you've done this, Leah, but like where I was like, I know some of the words, I actually can see it on my page of my Bible, but I wouldn't even know where to flip to. I just know it's on the bottom right corner.
Right, right.
And so I had to Google like 4 different things until I found the verse in Acts that I was looking for. And so I'm so thankful for that. And so my encouragement to parents is use the tools that help your kids walk toward the Lord and walk toward deepening their own relationship with God, whether that's books or TV shows or Instagram or whatever, and stay away from the tools that they aren't old enough to know how to use well yet.
Now, Annie, are there specific prayers that you pray over the little ones that are in your life?
Man, it's so one of the best things about having so many mini BFFs is I just feel like it feels like speaking of prayer, for a person who's not married yet and doesn't have kids yet myself, it feels like God has answered my prayer for kids in a way that I could not have imagined, in a way that has multiplied my joy. I have this one picture at my birthday of me and all the kids in our little like community in our COVID pod, in our village, whatever you want to call it. And they're all like, there's like 8 or 10 of them. And they're all from 2 to 6, kind of in that window. And you look at the picture and you're like, I couldn't have birthed all those people mathematically, right? Like I'm so thankful that I'm so loved. And it's more than I could have asked or imagined. So when I pray for those kids, I mean, the neat thing about what our community has done for me is the kids look at me the way they look at every other grown up in our community. We're not their parents, but we're another adult that they love and trust. Yeah. And so I pray for them like their parents pray for them, I hope. And I pray that, I look for opportunities to be in their lives and to speak into their lives. And when they ask me to pray for something, I really do it. And yeah. I think there's just so much to modeling for them. You ask me to pray for something, I'll do it. Yeah. And just the thing I want most for myself and the thing I want most for the people that I love and the thing I want most for kids is to experience God in a way that makes you never want to leave him. Yeah. Right. And so I pray that for the kids, that they will experience him in such a profound way that no disappointment or tragedy or pain would ever make them turn away.
And what an honor to have little ones coming up to you and saying, can you pray for me? Or having their parents ask you to, that is such a tremendous honor.
It really is. I heard yesterday a stat from a friend, so I have no idea if this is scientifically true, Leah, but I heard the stat that said one of the ways to keep kids who grow up in church, staying in church, is having 5 non-parent adults in their lives, and people of other generations. And a friend of mine, one of these families that I'm really close to, sent me an Instagram post last week that said, "Thank God for the other adults who love my kids as much as I do." That's right. And she was like, "You're that for us." And I just, teared up immediately and just thought, man, the way families and single people can join together to make a really healthy village and a really healthy place for kids to grow up is a real gift. I feel so lucky to be an adult in the lives of the kids I get to know.
Yeah. Well, you are such a gift. I know in my own life, the women and the men, the people who love my babies, that means the world to me. And it makes me
Yeah.
feel less alone.
Yes, that's right. Right. So when I get over to someone's house at 5:30 after work and they've been with the kids all day and I
Take
can come in,
them.
yeah, I come in and I've been working all day and I need to do something fun. They've been with the kids all day. They need to look at their email. We switch roles for 30 minutes and I throw them around and we play soccer outside and in a weird way, everybody's needs are met because even I walk in with needs, like I walk in with needs for community and for fun and for release from work. And the kids walk in with needs of getting out of school and doing something fun and having someone who can't tell them to pick up their laundry or to clean their room. And I'm meeting the parents' needs, and the parents' needs are for a break for a minute.
Yeah.
And so it really is such a gift. I mean, I jokingly say my favorite hour is the hour everyone else doesn't like because I'm raring to go and so are the kids and the parents are tired.
I love that. I love that. Well, Annie, shifting gears a little bit, your podcast is so popular. I was just talking to Ben Higgins, who could not stop singing your praises. This was back, when he put his book out.
Yeah.
But it's come in such a hard year. This is a pandemic year. So why do you think your podcast is resonating with so many people?
Yeah, a thing happened to me a couple of years ago professionally where someone else started doing the work I wanted to do and kind of like a real direct the work I wanted to do, whereas like it kind of changed a little bit of some plans that we had. And one of my team members said, instead of saying, oh no, I'm someone else is writing the book I want to write, instead, why don't you ask, what does this make possible?
Wow.
And we sat with it. And so we say that here a lot. And so when the pandemic really began and all of our travel got canceled, all these external plans got canceled, the question we started asking is, what does this make possible? And for me, particularly with That Sounds Fun podcast, but also with That Sounds Fun network, the Ben show is on. I mean, we created the network in the pandemic because we wanted to help other shows get out into the world. And there were a lot of people who had a lot of time to make podcasts.
Right. Yeah.
With That Sounds Fun, the show, with my particular podcast, it gave me space to add a show per week. So now we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And it gave me the ability to kind of have more variety of people on the show than I was able to have when I was once a week or twice a week. And it just kind of also opens up when when you're having this many recorded conversations, this, the more recorded conversations you have, the more honest you get in them.
That's right.
Because you're just out of time. Like you don't have time to cover up anything because you're out of cover up time and you're recording in your real life. And so when you're stuck in your house recording, you're going to be real. And so I think that has happened too, is that the longer I've done this, the longer I started podcasting in 2014, but the longer I've done this, the longer my audience trusts me. They tell their friends about shows that matter. Many of them appreciate some diverse points of view that we get, not all of them. But I don't appreciate everything that gets said on my podcast either. I don't appreciate everything I say. I edit myself before we put shows out more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so I am really thankful for this medium that we can be in people's ears when we're podcasting, that they're at the grocery store and minding their own business, but we're right there with them. And it just feels like a massive honor to get to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your goal ultimately through your books, through your network, through your podcast? What do you want your listeners, your viewers to take away?
Yeah, we have a sentence we say around here: Annie is a bridge. Annie's a bridge. I never want to be where people stop, and we are not the stopping point. In the podcast, I am sending you to whatever guest. I'm the bridge to whatever guest is on the show that you may or may not have known, but now you have a conversation that leads you to their new work that they care about. And in my books, I want to bridge people to their own story. I want them to take a piece of my story that walks them toward their own story and their own reality. I don't love saying their own truth because I think truth is absolute, but their own reality of what they've lived and what has been true in their lives. And so that is what I want the most between podcast and books. And even when I'm traveling and speaking, and the overarching one, the overarching one is I want to bridge people to Jesus. Yeah. I want to be. And so books like What Sounds Fun to You, we worked so hard. We put it in front of a bunch of librarians and we're like, can this go in a public school? Mm-hmm. And we wanted to make sure it could go in a public school because, Leah, if we can seed this book to public school libraries, and get it out. And so people buy one for them and they buy one for their school library, and we get it out to libraries, and then kids take it home and they read it, and the parents like it and they look me up, they're going to run into books about Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. So even What Sounds Fun to You is a bridge for families to books about that will lead them toward the gospel. And so that's why we love being in Target. I mean, it's fun to be in Target, of course, but I love being in Target because Target is a bridging store.
Yes.
Right. Christian bookstores, I love and adore, and I am thankful for them. But non-Christians aren't often walking into Christian bookstores unless they're in crisis.
Right.
Or it's Easter. Right. So
right.
That's when they're walking in. And I'm thankful to be in those places. But getting to be in Target, getting to be in some of these more mainstream stores that everybody goes into. Here in Nashville, there's one called Parnassus. It's like our local bookstore. Those are the ones that help us bridge people into more gospel work that they may not pick up on their own. And so I tell people all the time, Leo, when my first book that went into Target is called 100 Days to Brave. And when it was in Target, I was speaking at events, I would hold it up and say, if you want one of these, buy it here or anywhere else. Do not touch the ones at Target. Christians cannot touch the ones at Target. Yeah. Put your hand on them and pray for them, but leave them. Please leave them. Ask the Lord to have the right person pick that book up, but don't buy it.
That's right. That's right.
And so that's been my prayer for What Sounds Fun to You too, is that when people pass this kids book, when believer friends pass this kids book at Target, if they need one, of course, if they don't, just put your hand on it and say, Lord, put this in the right house, in the right school, in the right classroom, in the right baby shower gift, and let it bridge someone to Jesus who doesn't know him already.